When the doors of Le Jardin, one of London's most luxurious restaurants, opened, the sound of piano notes and clinking crystal glasses drifted out into the night. Two men walked in. The first one looked ordinary enough, worn leather jacket, jeans, and messy hair. But if you heard his name, you'd know him instantly. Ozzy Osbourne. Beside him was Jake, the band's former guitar tech. Jake leaned in and whispered, "Mate, isn't this place a bit too posh for us?" Ozzy smiled. Sharon suggested it. She said, "Ozzy, for once, go somewhere proper." Truth was, Ozzy wasn't comfortable in fancy restaurants. But Jake had been going through rough times. His wife was sick. When Ozzy heard, he'd immediately said, "Let me buy you dinner." The maitre d' greeted them and led them to a corner table by the window. The lights of the Thames glittered outside. Jake sighed. "This place is incredible, thank you." Ozzy waved it off. "Come on, mate, you've done so much for me. When Zakk Wylde's guitar string snapped during that tour, who helped?" "You did." The waiter brought the menus. Ozzy glanced around. The restaurant was impressive, but it felt a bit fake to him. He'd grown up in the working-class neighborhoods of Birmingham. Just then, there was a commotion at the entrance. A man in traditional white Arab robes entered, his gold belt buckle gleaming. Two bodyguards followed. The maitre d' rushed over. "Mr. Al-Rashid, welcome." The best table was prepared. Champagne arrived. Sheikh Khalid Al-Rashid, a petroleum tycoon with hotels in Dubai and a property empire in London. He was used to money, luxury, and respect. Khalid sat down and looked around. Everyone was watching him. Then his eyes landed on the table by the window, a scruffy-haired man in a worn jacket. He frowned and spoke loud enough for his guards to hear. "Who is that man?" "Look at him. He looks like he just came off the street. What's he doing here?" His guard shrugged. "Maybe he's a musician or something." Khalid laughed. "A musician? Looks more like a homeless bloke. Strange to see someone like that in London's finest establishment." His tone was mocking. Ozzy and Jake heard it. Jake's jaw tightened. "Ozzy, that man just insulted you." Ozzy smiled. "Forget it, Jake. Some people only measure worth by what's in someone's wallet. I've been dealing with types like that for years." But Khalid wasn't finished. When the waiter arrived, he began speaking loudly, as if everyone needed to hear. "Does just anyone get into this restaurant now? Your standards have dropped, it seems. We're trying to have a special evening here, but we're surrounded by people who look like that." The waiter looked confused. "Sir, I don't understand." Khalid waved his hand dismissively and pointed toward Ozzy's table. "That man over there. He doesn't fit this environment at all. In an upscale restaurant, you should be more careful about your clientele." A subtle silence fell over the restaurant. People at other tables raised their eyebrows, glancing at each other. Who is this man to behave like this? But Khalid didn't care. He lived in his own world, a reality where everyone respected him, where his word was law. Jake was furious. He was about to stand up, but Ozzy gently held his arm. "Jake, leave it. He's not worth it." Jake tried to contain himself. "But Ozzy, the man's talking rubbish about you. If he knew who you were—" Ozzy smiled, that familiar, self-deprecating smile of his. "He doesn't need to know, Jake. I came here to have a good time, to talk about the old days with you. Nothing else matters." But Khalid continued. After the waiter left, he said loudly to his guards, "This is why I prefer my restaurants in Dubai. There, you know who's who. This place has become somewhere anyone can wander into." His guard laughed. "That man's dressed like he's going to a punk rock concert." Khalid raised his champagne glass. "Punk rock? More like a street busker. Probably begs for change in the tube." His table laughed. Some people nearby were uncomfortable, but no one spoke up. Khalid Al-Rashid was powerful, wealthy, and arrogantly self-assured. People like that said whatever they wanted, until they learned the truth. Ozzy had ordered his meal, and he and Jake were reminiscing about the old days. "Remember that gig in Manchester?" Jake asked. "The power went out mid-show. We played the acoustic version, and the crowd went absolutely mental." Ozzy burst out laughing. "Of course I remember." Sharon was going mad backstage, shouting, "How is this even happening?" But it ended up being one of our best concerts. There was a warm energy at their table, two old friends laughing over memories. But a few tables away, Khalid still looked bothered. His eyes drifted back to Ozzy. Then he called over his waiter. "Move those men to another table. I can't relax with them nearby." The waiter looked bewildered. "Sir, they're also guests. I can't—" Khalid shot him a sharp look. "What did I just say? I spend a lot of money here. My requests should be honored." The waiter didn't know what to do. He went to get the manager. The manager, a middle-aged, well-dressed English gentleman, arrived promptly. He leaned in and politely asked, "Mr. Al-Rashid, is there a problem?" Khalid waved his hand. "Yes, there is. That man over there is bothering me. His appearance doesn't suit this establishment. Remove him." The manager was taken aback. He glanced at Ozzy's table, then back at Khalid. "Sir, those gentlemen are our guests as well. They haven't caused any trouble." Khalid raised his voice. "I didn't say they caused trouble. I'm saying they don't belong in a place of this caliber. Either send them away or I'll leave and never set foot in here again." Every eye in the restaurant turned toward them. Now everyone could hear. Even Ozzy lifted his head and looked over. For a moment, hurt flickered in his eyes, but then his calm expression returned. Jake, however, was red with anger. "Ozzy, that's enough. We need to tell this bloke who you are." But Ozzy held his arm again. "Jake, no, leave it. I didn't come here to start a fight." The manager was in a difficult position. Khalid was a very important customer. He came regularly. He tipped generously. But on the other hand, the restaurant had principles. Every guest was equal. The manager took a deep breath and spoke politely but firmly. "Mr. Al-Rashid, I'm terribly sorry, but I cannot disturb our other guests. They have every right to enjoy their evening here." Khalid was stunned. Very few people ever said no to him. His face flushed. "Are you saying no to me?" The manager stayed calm. "Sir, I have the utmost respect for you, but there's nothing I can do in this matter." Khalid shot to his feet. "Fine, then. But mark my words, find out who that man is. Maybe he's a musician, maybe he's some street person. Whatever he is, he doesn't belong in this restaurant." And just as Khalid was about to turn and storm out, a young waiter came rushing over from the corner of the restaurant. His face was a mixture of shock and excitement. "Wait!" the young waiter shouted. That man is Ozzy Osbourne." A deep silence fell over the restaurant. Khalid froze. "What did you say?" he asked. The young waiter was breathless. "Sir, that man is one of the world's most famous rock stars. Ozzy Osbourne, the frontman of Black Sabbath. He's sold millions of albums, won Grammy Awards, he's a rock legend." Khalid's face went pale. His eyes widened. "Ozzy Osbourne?" The waiter nodded. "Yes, sir. My father's a huge fan. He's got every album at home. I recognized him from photos. That's really him." People at other tables looked at each other. Some began whispering. "Ozzy Osbourne? Really? Blimey, I didn't even notice him." Khalid was in shock. His eyes moved to Ozzy's table. Ozzy sat there calmly, talking to Jake as if nothing had happened. 1,000 thoughts raced through Khalid's mind. In that moment, everything he'd said replayed before his eyes. What had he called him? A street busker? Look at him! And now, who the man really was had been revealed. The young waiter pulled out his phone and showed photos. "Look, sir." Images from Black Sabbath concerts. Paranoid, Iron Man, Crazy Train. He's got millions of fans worldwide. A rock legend. Khalid's eyes darted between the photos and the table in the corner. Yes, it was the same person. Messy hair, tired face. But now it was as if a veil had lifted. He looked different somehow. That man wasn't a street musician. He was one of the biggest names in rock history. He'd toured the world, touched millions of lives. People pulled out their phones, wanting to take photos. But Ozzy just sat there, talking quietly with Jake, as if all the commotion around him didn't concern him in the slightest. Khalid's mind was spinning. His entire life, money and power had been everything. People respected him because he was wealthy and influential. But now, standing before this man in a leather jacket, he felt small. And the man hadn't even raised his voice. Because his worth wasn't measured in money. It was measured in talent, in music, in a life that had touched millions. That's how real impact was made. His guard whispered, "Sir, what will you do?" Khalid couldn't answer. Two voices battled inside him. "Go apologize, you were wrong, and you don't apologize to anyone, it'll damage your image." But everyone in the restaurant was watching him. The manager, the waiters, people at other tables. Everyone was waiting to see what he'd do. Khalid slowly stood up. His hands were trembling, but he tried to hide it. He took a deep breath and walked toward Ozzy's table. Ozzy and Jake had stopped talking. Jake tensed up, but Ozzy remained calm. There was no anger in his eyes, only curiosity. Khalid reached the table and stopped. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Finally, he forced himself to speak. "I'm Khalid al-Rashid. I'd like to introduce myself." His voice was hoarse. Ozzy smiled. "Hello, mate. I'm Ozzy. This is Jake." Khalid looked away. I didn't know who you were. Your appearance—" He stopped. He was choosing the wrong words. Ozzy shook his head. "Don't worry about it, mate. Everyone expects to see a rock star when they look at me, but I'm just a kid from Birmingham, really. Never had much fashion sense anyway." He made a light joke, trying to ease the tension. Khalid didn't relax. The guilt inside him was growing heavier. "No, I was incredibly rude. What I said to you was unforgivable. His voice broke. For the first time in his life, he truly felt small. Ozzy leaned back slightly in his chair and looked at Khalid carefully. Then he spoke in a gentle voice. "Look, mate, I don't know who you are. Maybe you're very successful. But I'll tell you this. I've been dealing with these kinds of looks for years. Some people think I'm mad. Some think I'm dangerous. But I'm just John Osbourne. I loved music. I got lucky. I became successful. But that doesn't make me better than you. Just different." Khalid lifted his head and looked into Ozzy's eyes. There was no anger there, no malice, only understanding. This man, even after being insulted, was showing compassion. Khalid's eyes welled up. For the first time in his life, his money and power meant nothing. The man sitting across from him possessed something far richer: humanity. "I apologize to you," Khalid said, his voice trembling. "Not just to you, to everyone. I'm an arrogant man. I speak without thinking. I judge people by their appearance, but that's wrong. You've taught me a tremendous lesson today." Ozzy smiled, this time more warmly. "Mate, we all make mistakes. What matters is owning them and learning from them. And you've just learned." Jake was still skeptical. Arms crossed, he stared at Khalid. "So what happens now? You've apologized, fine. But are you actually going to change, or are you just doing this because you're embarrassed?" Khalid turned to him. "You're right, I am embarrassed. But it's not just that. I realized something today. My whole life I've evaluated people like this. Were they rich or poor? What were they wearing? But I never looked at who they actually were, what they carried inside them. Ozzy showed me what real worth is, and I'll never forget that. If you'll allow me, may I at least pay for your meal as an apology?" Ozzy laughed. "Mate, that's not necessary. But you know what? Maybe there's something else you could do." Khalid looked at him curiously. Ozzy continued. "I grew up in Birmingham, in a working-class neighborhood, on streets where poor families lived. There are still loads of kids there who can't even touch a musical instrument. Maybe you could give them a chance. A music school, instruments, free lessons. Maybe some kid could pick up a guitar and make their dream come true, just like Tony Iommi did." Khalid's eyes lit up. You want a music school for underprivileged children?" Ozzy nodded. "Not just in Birmingham. In Dubai, London, New York, everywhere. Because music brings people together. Rich, poor, white, black, doesn't matter. When you give a child an instrument, you're giving them life." In that moment, Khalid understood something. This man wasn't just being polite. He was genuinely trying to change the world. He wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about others. "I'll do it," Khalid said, his voice resolute. "Birmingham, Dubai, everywhere. I'll open Ozzy Osbourne music academies. Poor children will receive free education. Instruments will be provided. Concerts will be organized. and it'll be done in your name because this idea came from you." Ozzy blinked as if he couldn't believe it. "Mate, are you serious?" Khalid nodded. "Yes, you taught me something today. Real wealth isn't money. It's touching other people's lives. And I want to touch lives too." Ozzy stood up and extended his hand. "Mate, you're not just a good man, you're a bloody brilliant man." Khalid shook his hand. In that moment, two worlds had merged. One had changed the world through music, the other would do it through money. But they shared the same purpose, making humanity better. That evening, the restaurant was different. People had recognized Ozzy and asked for photos. Ozzy had been kind to everyone. Khalid sat at his table, and for the first time, his money had meaning. As Ozzy and Jake left the restaurant, they stopped along the Thames embankment. The air was cool, city lights reflecting off the water. Jake said, "You're a real legend. Not just for your music, but for who you are." Ozzy laughed. "I'm no legend, mate. Just a lucky kid from Birmingham. Now come on, Sharon's waiting for me. If I'm late, I'll be in proper trouble." What happened that evening at Le Jardin was a simple thing. A misunderstanding, an apology, forgiveness. But it runs deeper than that. Two men from different worlds saw the truth. One a billionaire, the other famous, but both human. If this story reminded you of compassion, second chances, and what real worth means, please don't forget to like, comment, and share. And remember, next time before you judge someone by their appearance, stop and ask yourself, what's their real story? Has there ever been a moment in your life when a mistake turned into something beautiful? Tell us in the comments.